Hi everybody, welcome back to the Rules Corner. We're now moving into the last couple of segments. We have general skills, which we're working on tonight, and then finally we have faction skills, which will be the next episode, because general skills is huge. It's got the most number of skills in it that runs the gambit all the way from clan salvage, black market, stuff where you can redesign your mechs and soup them up, all the way to trial run, which is an LRM-based skill that gives you some specialty ammunition to try.
General skills. This is a catch-all section of various skills or abilities that a MechWarrior has collected or trained for over their career. These skills run the gambit from purchasing clan salvage from a black market broker to purchasing a different mech altogether. Please keep in mind, when using any redesign type skill, the admin will use the free weight to alter your mech first by adding case 2, then heat balancing, then armor. After that, they will consider adding equipment like AMS, ECM, Jump, or Artemis 4. Finally, they will consider things like upgrading a small laser to a medium. Black market. Cost varies. Envious of that other stable's fancy new tech, well, the black market merchants have just what you're looking for. Having obtained advanced technology through dubious means, these pricey upgrades are just what the MechWarrior is looking for. A decisive edge on the battlefield. This is one-stop shopping at its finest. The mech will be redesigned using slight modifications to make the new weapon fit with extra tonnage, critical spaces used for additional equipment. This skill cannot be used with the engineer, technician, underworld contacts, clan salvage, or faction tech skill.
No, folks, your ears are not deceiving you. This week I'm being joined by our friend Jacques. Jeff is on vacation for a few weeks, getting some much-needed rest before League starts, so I thought I'd pull in a good friend of ours to help me out. Black Market is the skill that you go to when you really want that heavy gauze rifle that the Lyran Alliance has. Or, Federated Sons have some pretty nice targeting computers, you can grab those as well. It's one of those ways to help mix the tech a little bit, especially when there's things that just don't quite fit in your lance, and you just see that tasty technology on the other side. Easy skill to grab. Costs vary. As shown on the screen, they're not terrible, but they use up one of your engineering skills.
Underworld contacts. Cost varies. This skill allows a pilot to requisition an upgrade for a specific weapon or piece of gear for the mech they ride. In the case of a weapon upgrade, the weapon must already be on the mech. Again, this skill cannot be used with engineer, technician, black clan salvage, black market, or faction tech skill.
This skill is what you use to upgrade portions of a mech. It's not quite as powerful as engineer, but if you just want to upgrade to case 2, as a matter of fact, or bring your large lasers up to large pulse lasers, or throw AMS because you're just getting hammered by those missile boats. The skill is good, cheap, and really easily used to modify your mechs without having to go full-blown engineering that you might want to save for that cheap mech that you bought just to fit under the BV cap.
Clan salvage. Cost varies. This skill allows the pilot to spend skill points to upgrade one of their mech's weapon systems to clan standards. The upgrade will be for the most logical clan system available for the weapon or system upgraded. The mech will be redesigned using slight modifications to make the new weapon fit, with extra tonnage, critical spaces used for additional equipment. The weapon upgrade will not replace a smaller weapon with a larger one, nor allow a larger weapon to decrease. This skill cannot be used with the engineer, technician, underworld contacts, black market, or faction tech skill.
As a good friend of mine likes to say, any idiot can win with clan tech. Well, most people are that kind of an idiot. Who doesn't want a clan large pulse laser? Double the range, an extra point of damage, and I believe it even weighs a little bit less, so you're gaining a ton back. Every autocannon the clans have is better than what the Inner Sphere has. The LB-20X, longer range, it's a LB-20X, weighs less so you can fit more tonnage in. The Ultra Autocannon 20, just a murder machine waiting to happen, as well as things like ER medium lasers, Clan double heat sinks when you start to run out of space. Stuff like that really helps. One of the best pieces of tech to purchase on this is the Clan XL engine. You can swap out your Inner Sphere one with the 3 critical slots on the left and right torso for the Clan version, which gives you those extra critical spots back and may save your mech if it loses a torso.
Veteran, no cost. This pilot has seen their fair share of combat and consequently is a little more experienced than the other pilots around them. With this edge, a pilot can purchase a 3rd secondary skill slot in place of a primary skill slot.
Veteran seems like a bit of an odd skill. 1, it doesn't cost anything, and 2, you're sacrificing your primary skill choices for a 3rd secondary skill. Why would you not want gunnery piloting, edge, and tactics? Well, they're expensive, and may not just fit your way of style. You want to take some of those gunnery skills that really have all the little unique quirks and all that, and just straight gunnery doesn't do it for you. Tactics, pfft, I lose every initiative anyway. What do I care? Well, this skill allows you to sacrifice that primary for a 3rd secondary, and there's a lot of really good secondary skills out. This one's free because you're giving something up pretty major to get it, and it doesn't take a skill slot itself, so it's an easy one to take if you want to vary your skill choices a little bit.
Bribery, 2 points. This pilot is very persuasive, using their abilities to coerce Solaris gaming officials into automatically granting their unit home edge advantage in the next match. The controlling player may first choose their home edge and then wait while their opponent has placed his/her lance on the map before placing any of their own units. Simply roll for map edge as per normal rules if both players have this skill.
This is a bit of a secret skill. Only a couple of people know about it. This skill just completely eliminates having to roll for home edge. It may not seem like a big advantage, but on certain maps it is absolutely crucial that your fast mechs get on the board, able to use the terrain to their advantage. Your big lumbering guys don't have a lot of junk in front of them unless your plan is to park them on a hill and do the elevated attacks. Otherwise, this skill isn't for you. But if it's really important that you have that home edge that you get to choose, this skill is the one for you, and I know it is stamped Jacques approved.
Cram, 2 points. A pilot with this skill may persuade their technician to load extra ammunition into their ammo bins. A player with this skill may choose to add 1 extra shot of ammunition for all ammunition bins on the mech.
Calgary Battletech League averages around 15 to 20 rounds per match. That's in 4.5 hours. We have extremes. Players have played up to 40 rounds in a match. And we have the other end, where players have played 7, 8, 9 rounds in a match. We would like to see the average be anywhere from 15 to 20. It's going to take a little bit of dedication and some real paying attention to what you're doing. Now, in that regards, mechs like the primary 30-25 Archer only has 12 shots per launcher, and most Gauss rifles come with 2 tons of ammo, which is 16 shots. You're going to run out of ammo, especially in those situations. Especially with mechs like the Hunchback with 2 tons of autocannon 20 ammo, they only have 10 shots. They got to be very careful how many shots they fire off. With this skill, you get 1 extra shot per bin. So your LRM 20 gets 7 shots per ton, your autocannon 20 gets 6. That little bit more endurance in the battle might be the difference, and that's why this is another really cheap skill that might help you not have to redesign your mech to cram more ammo in.
Intercept, 2 points. A mech armed with 1 or more anti-missile systems can intercept a missile salvo aimed at a friendly unit situated directly behind it. The missile flight path must cross within 3 hexes and in the front arc of the currently occupied by the unit with this skill. Apply the -2 to the cluster chart as normal for the intercepted salvo.
So this is a bit of a strange skill as well. It takes a little bit of thinking. Are you getting tired of getting hammered by LRMs? That's really what you're thinking about. Now, if your mech that's sitting at the front of the battlefield isn't the one being targeted a lot, but it's your campers at the back that are, then you're looking at this skill. because your front mech with an anti-missile system can help shoot down some of those missiles before they even get to the enemy. That can be stacked with the anti-missile system that's on the mech being targeted as well. So the total would be a -6 in that situation on the missile chart with a minimum of 2. So you're looking at some pretty significant bonuses on that. But it's going to require some planning and tactics on your part to take it. It's another cheap skill. It's one that you might want to cram into a mech, but it's entirely up to you. I've only seen a couple of people use it effectively, so you got to really weigh the pros and cons.
Jam it, 2 points. This skill allows a pilot to attempt to fix jammed autocannon. For an ultra autocannon, the pilot must stand still or walk their mech and make no other actions that turn. They add a +3 modifier to their gunnery skill and make a fix attempt roll. If the roll is successful, the ultra works, but it cannot be used in the ultra mode of fire. For rotary autocannons, the pilot must stand still or walk. They make no other actions that turn. They add a +1 modifier to their gunnery skill and make a fix roll attempt. This roll replaces the standard rotary fix roll of +3. This skill cannot be combined with no.
In standard Battletech play, when an ultra autocannon jams, it actually isn't jammed. It breaks. A portion of the system is broken and the gun is no longer usable for the rest of the game. For Calgary Battletech League, we're going to say you just shake the living daylights out of the thing until whatever's broken falls apart and the gun works again. And when you're using rotary autocannons, well, it just makes it easier because you took the skill. And I know a lot of mechs out there, like the Jagger mech and the Rifleman, that use rotary autocannons on a heavy level. It would be really important for those guns to be able to function for the entire game.
Seize initiative, 2 points. The pilot with this skill can grant the opponent initiative at any time when its lance has actually won it. When the lance has surrendered 2 such initiatives, they may spend both on the following turn to seize the initiative. No roll for initiative is needed. If the pilot with this skill is eliminated prior to spending the banked initiative, the bank initiative is lost to the lance. If 2 lances try to seize the initiative in the same turn, simply roll for initiative as per normal rules. Cannot be used with tactical genius, taunt, procrastination, strategist, or intimidation.
Now we're getting into the skills to start altering the way the game is played. This skill allows you to surrender initiatives. And you know what? The first 3-4 rounds of battle, before you're just starting to get into place, would be the perfect time to surrender a couple of them. And the way the skill works is any turn after that 2 turns of surrendered initiative are given up, you're allowed to seize the initiative. That uses it up, and then you can then start banking it again by surrendering the initiative to your opponent. Normally at that point you're getting into the scrum of things and maybe giving up initiative isn't such a great idea, but you might want to. You might want to do that just to be able to get that turn when you really need to win the initiative.
Surge Protect, 2 points. The Surge Protect skill absorbs 2 separate points of feedback damage associated with internal explosions within a mech, preventing pilot injury. The pilot will sustain only 1 point of damage on 2 different internal explosions instead of the 2 points per explosion that would normally result. Once the Surge Protect circuit has been used twice, it is burned out and offers the pilot no further benefit during the current match. This equipment does not protect the pilot from falling damage or normal combat damage hits to the head. This cannot be combined with lost tech or pain resistance.
If you're like me, you use a lot of ammunition-heavy mechs. The Orion comes to mind, the Archer, and quite a few others that just seem to have a lot of missiles and a lot of ammunition. This skill allows you to take an ammunition explosion and only take 1 shot to the head. That's important, especially if it cascades. That would potentially save your pilot from death and keep him in the battle. Every little bit helps in this game. Keeping your mechs operational and the pilot conscious is extremely important, because we're not worried about the amount of damage you do to the enemy, we're worried about mechs destroyed, pilots killed.
Technician, 2 points. This skill allows the pilot the ability to make minor changes to their mech. This may include swapping a medium pulse laser for a medium laser and some extra armor, or perhaps an Ultra AC-10 for an LB-10X autocannon, or an AC-5 for a large laser. The resulting battle value of the mech cannot increase by more than 200 points. Excess tonnage criticals will be used for minor upgrades when necessary. This skill can allow the movement of up to 2 existing weapons, i.e. rear-facing mounted forward-facing. This skill cannot be combined with Clan Salvage, Engineer, Underworld Contacts, Black Market, or Faction Tech Upgrade. This is not a full redesign of the mech.
So this is for those mechs you wanted to make the really minor tweaks to. Don't like the fact that your archer has 2 medium lasers firing out the back? You can move them forward. Your Battlemaster or Thunderbolt with those machine guns in the arms just really isn't doing it for you. You can pull it out, swap it for armor or heat sinks. Now the actual equipment that's going to be put on your mech is up to the admin. We do have build and construction rules that we follow while we're doing it. But you can make suggestions, right? Your mech runs a little hot. You can say, hey, can I get heat sinks instead of armor? But you know what? I only have standard engines. I have case. I don't want case 2 because it's pointless to me. Can you put in an extra heatsink? Or a ton of ammo, maybe. You can make small suggestions, but the final say is up to the admin.
Bracing, 3 points. A MechWarrior can invoke bracing after they have finished their movement, which will grant them a +1 piloting bonus for any piloting skill rolls they are forced to make during the weapon attack phase or physical attack phase. A mech using bracing cannot make a kick attack of its own that turn. A mech must announce they are bracing immediately after finishing their movement, at the cost of 1 movement point. This means that a mech could not use this skill after a jump into a hex. A bracing mech can then carry over a brace from a following turn indefinitely, or move during the movement phase if it so desires.
If you're anything like John and I, we like to fall down. It's just a bad habit of ours. PSRs are our enemy. With bracing, you can use that 1 extra movement point to keep yourself a little bit more stable. With a quad, this mech skill would be extremely powerful. That -3 makes it almost impossible to knock the mech over. 2 for being a quad, 1 for bracing. That's pretty powerful. So, pick the skill up if you do have the bad luck like John and I do. However, I've never purchased it because it's just a fact of life I'm going to fall, and I would feel so silly falling down after buying this skill.
Faction Tech Upgrade, 3 points. This functions much like Engineer, however, is centered around whichever tech your faction has dedicated to it. You cannot completely redesign your own unit. However, the admin team will incorporate your special tech and work with you to ensure a major upgrade fits with the flavor of your faction. The resulting battle value cannot increase by more than 400 points. Please do not abuse this skill for the good intention it was introduced for. Cannot be used with Clan Salvage, Technician, Engineering, Underworld Contacts, or Black Market.
Alright, so, you're the Draconis Combined faction. You have an archer with 2 LRM-20s, and you're like, you know what, I really don't like how this fits in my lance. I really want to try to make this a little bit more flavorful, and it's not quite doing enough damage for me. So, you take faction tech, you strip out the 2 LRM-20s, and you throw in 2 MRM-30s. The League administration will figure out how to make that fit, do a little bit of jiggering around, maybe change some heat sinks to doubles, stuff like that. It is kind of like engineering, so it is a rather major overhaul, but you're very specifically adding your faction tech into the mix. Therefore, we will help you. We will work with you, and we'll make sure that the mech turns out the way you want it. It just may not be optimized to be the pulse boat you think you always wanted, or 2 MRM-40s and no armor.
Field Test, 3 points. With the Field Test skill, the player has been given 3 new SRM ammo types to battle test by a major inner sphere weapons firm. The mech may use these munitions during future matches. An ammunition bin cannot carry more than 1 type of ammo. 2-stage SRM. 2-stage SRM missiles act like normal SRM except as follows. They carry a solid propellant booster stage which makes them heavier than standard missiles. This propellant grants them the same range profile of the Clan Streak SRM. Short range is 1 to 4, medium range 5 to 8, and long range is 9 to 12. The weight of this propellant makes the missiles carried fewer per ton. Two-stage SRM bins are 10 salvos per ton of SRM-6 ammo, 16 salvos per ton of SRM-4 ammo, and 32 salvos per ton of SRM-2 ammo. Tandem Charge SRM. This warhead uses a dual explosive charge that does 2 damage points, one to the target's armor and one to the internal structure of the location hit. The warhead cannot cause critical hits until the entire armor in the section is destroyed, facing section in the case of torso armor. If all internal structure in the section has been eliminated before the entire armor value has been stripped away, the section fails as per normal rules. Internal hits on a section without armor or with one remaining armor point create one chance for critical hits. Inferno SRM. Treat as a normal SRM, except Infernos deliver no damage. Instead, they deliver an extra 2 points of heat for every missile that strikes the target. The downside of Infernos is that they are very volatile and have a chance of exploding if your own mech overheats. Use the following table for calculating Inferno ammo explosion chances. Example: if Brett's mech is hit by 3 Inferno missiles, he would add 6 heat when calculating in the heat phase of the turn.
This is one of the more versatile skills. A Kintaro with this skill could pack such interesting weapons fire the enemy wouldn't know what's coming at them. Extended ranges from the 2-stage, being able to hit internal structures with the tandem charge, and finally, probably the most terrifying of them all, Inferno missiles. Now you can max out at plus 15 heat for all external heat sources. So it doesn't matter if you hit with 20 SRM-2 Infernos, you're still only raising the mech up by plus 15 maximum. Now, their own weapons fire may raise them even higher, but you can only add plus 15. But still, who can deal with an extra 15 heat? It's a massive, massive skill. Totally a game changer if you like to run SRM heavy units.
Intimidation, 3 points. This mech has a terrifying visage or fierce reputation, and as such, any mech that ends its turn adjacent to this mech must make a piloting check to determine if they are capable of doing a physical attack against this mech, with a modifier depending on differences in mech weight classification. If the piloting check is failed, the opponent mech may not make any physical attacks against this machine, though weapons fire is not affected. This can affect multiple mechs. This cannot be combined with the Tactical Genius, Taunt, Delayed Tactics, or Strategist skills.
So this skill, it can be absolutely devastating because it doesn't say you can't make a physical attack back. So you can stop every mech around you from kicking or punching you, yet you get to kick and punch them. It's a pretty easy skill. It's a passive one. You don't have to do something, they do. So you throw it on your mech, especially when you have an assault mech that likes to go in and close, or you got a hatchet man or an axe man that you know they're gonna lay into at close range. At least you can avoid them from doing physical attacks to you. Well, potentially avoid them doing physical attacks to you.
Pain resistance, 3 points. This pilot shows incredible mental control over their own body, minimizing the effects of warrior feedback or other grievous wounds. The pilot suffers only 1 damage from any ammo, capacitor, autocannon, or Gauss rifle explosion, and adds +1 to the result of any consciousness rolls they are forced to make. This skill cannot be combined with Lost Tech or Surge Protect.
Okay, an upgrade on Surge Protect. You don't have to worry about ammo explosions as much, and you get bonuses on staying awake. Another one that I think John and I should probably have taken over the seasons. I would buy this one before I would buy pretty much any other skill that helps protect you from explosions, because it never stops and it affects you even more than either of the other two.
Reassignment, 3 points. The pilot has been successful in their attempt to change the mech they pilot as long as it is in the same tonnage or lower and found in their faction inventory. The battle value of the resultant change may be no more than ±300 from the original mech. It can take your lance to 6,800. If you choose a mech with a greater BV difference, if you had leftover BV originally, see example. This skill is meant to help people recover from poor lance makeup. It is not meant to squeeze a crap mech into your lance with the intention of replacing it game 1 with a monster. Example, your starting lance was at 6,100, then the new ride has an extra 400 buffer zone, but still a cap of 6,800.
Reassignment's a great skill. So you had to take a not prime mech to fit under the BV cap. I had to take a Centurion under 1,000. It's just not working out for you. It's too hot. It doesn't have enough armor. It's not fast enough. You want to move it into a different mech. So you take reassignment. You can go at your original weight and down, but not into a different weight class. You can't go from assault to heavy or heavy to medium or medium to lights. But let's say my Centurion, 50 tons. I can pick another 50-tonner, pull out a Hunchback, or I can go down to a Whitworth or another lower mech like a Phoenix Hawk. As long as it's within 300 BV one way or the other, you can do that. It can take you over the 6,800, but once we're starting play, all of the skills, if you were to calculate them, do take you above that 6,500. So at this point, it doesn't matter. But you do have a 300 cap.
Sensor Ops, 3 points. This pilot has extensive knowledge of the electronic suite mounted within their mech and has spent considerable time experimenting with different settings. The player can boost the capabilities of their electronic suite during the end phase of any turn. To do this, player must roll 2d6. Any result of 4 or better results in successful augmentation of the electronic suite, while a result of 3 or less indicates the sensitive equipment has burned out. The equipment ceases to function, but can still take critical damage as per normal rules. The player must make the 2d6 roll each turn they wish their electronic suite to function on an augmented setting. Successful augmentation can increase the effect radius of their electronic suite by 1 hex. This works with either an ECM or an active probe, but not both at the same time.
This skill is fantastic for those players who are terrified of C3, C3I, Artemis 4, and the Narc missile beacon, or have those systems in play and want to be using their Beagle active probe to shut down the opponent's ECM. It's custom rules for our league, but Beagle active probes are going to be the ECCM for Calgary Battletech League. With this skill, you can increase the range of your ECM out to 7, or with your Beagle active probe, bring it out to 5 hexes. Once the enemy's inside those bubbles, those other systems are shut down.
Tactical Genius, 3 points. A player can re-roll an initiative roll every time it is that chosen's pilot turn to roll initiative. The second roll stands regardless of the new outcome. Every game starts with the lightest mech rolling initiative, then the second lightest, etc. This way, Tactical Genius can be used once each time it is that mech's turn for initiative. Take any mechs destroyed out of the roll order when determining which mech is up for the initiative roll. Theoretically, if it is the only unit left in the lance, a MechWarrior with the Tactical Genius skill may use it in each initiative roll round if it has to. Tactical Genius cannot be used with Delayed Tactics, Strategist, or Taunt.
Once again, another one taking control of the game. In this one, you can be able to use some tactical bonuses, but only on the turn of the mech that it's on. So when you're starting off, and if you've watched our how to play, you start off with using the lightest mech rolling for initiative, then the next lightest up to the heaviest. There's really not a whole lot else to say about this, other than it has really good usage if you want to worry about the tactical play in this game. And everyone should be worried about tactical play.
Taunt, 3 points. This pilot is an expert with the verbal jibe, joyfully using the external speakers on their mech to taunt the opposition. During the end phase of any turn, the pilot may invoke the taunt skill. For the following turn, the enraged opposition gains a beneficial -1 to hit modifier for any of their weapons and physical attacks attempted against the taunting mech. The lance taunting the opposition enjoys a +2 initiative modifier for the initiative phase based on the poor unit discipline of their adversary. This skill requires a 1-turn recharge before using again. Cannot be used with Tactical Genius, Delayed Tactics, or Strategist.
So this skill actually is a lot of fun, especially if you're like me and you like to park a mech at the back of the battlefield that isn't taking a lot of fire until later in the game. You could use taunt on your opponents, and they look across the battlefield and see, oh, that jerk's making things difficult for us. And they can't do anything about it because you're too far away. Your side gets a +2 initiative bonus, their side gets a bonus to shoot the mech they can't hit. So that's how I would use it. I think it's a great skill, probably overlooked in a lot of seasons, and I'm hoping with the fact that we've got more advanced technology, we're going to see more skills like this purchased because they're going to be game changers.
Camouflage, 4 points. This pilot is skilled at using terrain features as a defensive tool, actively hiding behind available cover to minimize their exposure to inbound weapon fire. The pilot gains a +1 defensive modifier if its mech occupies any wooded, rough, water, or rubble hex using walking movement. A mech using running or jumping movement cannot take advantage of the surrounding terrain due to its quick pace, so no effective camouflage benefit is gained. The camouflage modifier increases to +2 if the pilot chooses not to move during the movement phase.
So this might seem like a bit of an expensive skill for something that doesn't help you in combat for hitting the opponent, but it can make you almost impossible to hit. Your mech standing in heavy trees, decides not to move with this skill, gets a 4 defensive modifier. And you didn't have to do anything to get it, just not move. It's a great skill for that, and works really well if you're trying to avoid the enemy having any advantage at hitting you, or you have that one mech that's anchoring the team at the back that you don't plan on moving a whole lot anyway.
Chassis upgrade, 4 points. Taking the opportunity to find a replacement battle mech for an older design. This skill allows a MechWarrior to purchase a brand new mech from the faction table. The mech cannot leave its current weight category, medium, heavy, or assault, or increase by more than 400 battle value points with this skill.
Chassis upgrade is the big brother to reassignment. This one, you get to pick up your weight class as long as you stay in the same weight category. So 50 can go to 55, 40 can go to 45, 95 can go to 100. You just can't go up into from medium to heavy, heavy to assault. It is a great way to improve your lance, include your firepower, or fit that mech in that you were really close to getting but the BV cap stopped you. I know lots of people that use this skill, and it's always worked well for them.
Combat Wisdom, 4 points. The pilot may force a reroll of any attack that strikes its head once per game. The pilot must be conscious to invoke this skill. Cannot be used to avoid damage from a fall to the pilot/cockpit.
Last year, this was a primary skill, and a couple of people did purchase it. It's a good skill. Helps protect your head from taking any damage. And would be great when you get hit with that Gauss rifle. Very frustrating for the guy that got that lucky 12. We've moved it back down to the general skills because we've added edge to the primary skills, and that one just lets you reroll anything. So this one's not quite as primary anymore, but it's definitely a great general skill.
Engineer, 4 points. This skill gives the MechWarrior the clout needed to mobilize a team of technicians and engineers to generate a major modification on their battle mech. This modification can be used for a different engine, main weapon, gyro, etc. You cannot completely redesign your own unit, but you can ask for major modifications. The resulting battle value cannot increase by more than 400 points. Please do not abuse this skill for the good intention it was introduced for. Cannot be used with Black Market, Clan Salvage, Faction Tech Upgrade, Technician, or Underworld Contacts.
This is the most powerful redesign skill in the game. You can take your mech and pretty much redesign it based off of a few basic criteria. One of them being you can't completely change the design. You can't turn your archer with 2 LRM-20s, 4 medium lasers into a Warhammer. You can't drop the 2 LRM-20s and put in 2 PPCs. You can, however, say, hey, you know what? LRM-20s are great, but I'd really like 2 LRM-15s with Artemis 4. And then we'd use the extra tonnage for something else, maybe more ammo, better armor, stuff like that. It's combination of a few skills, actually, because during that redesign, you could also say, hey, I'd really like those 2 medium lasers at the back rolled up forward so that I have 4 forward firing medium lasers. You just have to be realistic and reasonable. Don't try to turn your archer into a 20 small pulse laser mech. Don't try to turn your archer into a warhammer, and don't try to turn your rifleman into a dragon. Be realistic with what you're trying to ask of us, and we will work with you. You can definitely improve your mechs, and you can definitely make some really interesting designs with this, because you could do things like one torso being an LRM-20 in the archer, and the other torso being 2 SRM-6s. That's allowable, but you have to be careful with what you ask, because we're just going to simply say no and pass it back to you for new recommendations, or we'll design it for you, and you're just going to have to like it and lump it what we give you.
Impatient, 4 points. This mech, after movement order has been determined during the initiative phase, may choose to swap movement order with its lance mate slated to move immediately before it in the order of movement. For example, if this mech was to move second, it can force the first mech to move in its place and assume the first movement slot. Announce the switch prior to moving the mech. Intimidation cancels out this skill when the mech using Intimidation wishes the mech with Impatient to move. Another pilot in the unit may not have Procrastination if a fellow MechWarrior takes Impatient. This skill cannot be used with Lethargic.
So, another one that changes initiative order a little bit, but this time with inside your own lance. Maybe you really want that mech to move early because it is at the back of the field. The first mech I always move if I have my say in the matter is the mech at the back, because it is affected the least by the mechs that are in front of it. You're 14 hexes away from my dual ERPPC Warhammer. Where you go isn't going to matter. So I'm going to go first. I'm going to stick my feet in the sand, wait for you to move, you go ahead. That opens it up for the rest of my lance to maneuver better. So that's how that skill's used in this situation, to move mechs in a better order. So if you have a mech that you like moving first, because it changes the order, I would buy this skill in a heartbeat.
Lost Tech, 4 points. This skill gives the pilot the great fortune to have found a Star League Defense Force Neuro helmet. The helmet provides a vastly superior interface between the pilot and the battle mech. The end result is a -1 piloting modifier to all piloting-related skill checks. This modifier is eliminated if and when the pilot takes any damage points, either through weapons fire, falling damage, or internal explosion. The helmet absorbs the first point of damage itself, protecting the pilot from injury. This skill cannot be combined with the piloting skill Courage, Surge Protect, Pain Resistance, or any physical attack skill.
So it's a cheap piloting. That's how this works. You buy it, your piloting goes down by 1. As soon as your pilot takes any damage, however, it is no longer usable, but it protects your pilot from that single point as well. I would buy that before I bought piloting.
Procrastination, 4 points. This mech, after individual movement order has been determined during the initiative phase, may choose to swap movement order with its lance mate slated to move immediately after it in the order of movement. For example, if this mech was to move second, it can force the third mech to move in its place and assume the third movement slot. Announce the switch prior to moving the mech. Intimidation cancels out the skill when the mech using Intimidation wishes the mech with Procrastination to move. Another pilot in the unit may not have Impatient if a fellow MechWarrior has Procrastination. This skill cannot be used with Hyperactive.
So Procrastination is a really good skill, and it's the exact opposite of Impatient. You get to go after another mech instead of trying to go before them. So if you have a mech that really needs to go later in the moving phase, I'll use a good example. A Axeman wants to be able to get within melee range to be able to hit an enemy mech. Well, if he goes before he does, he's not going to be able to get within that 1 hex range, more than likely, so he wants to go later in the movement phase. So he'll swap places with the Archer, who doesn't matter when he moves because he's 14 hexes back, does that, therefore he goes a little bit later, better chance for him actually be able to get within swinging range for his axe.
Strategist, 4 points. This pilot is quite adept at tactical thinking and can analyze and interpret the tactics of an opponent in the field very quickly. The longer they fight a certain opponent, the more insightful they will be as to their probable next move. To reflect this, on the 5th turn Lance initiative phase, the pilot gains a single tactics bonus of +1. This bonus increases to +2 at the beginning on the 10th turn to the 14th turn, then +3 on the 15th turn and beyond. Strategist has no effect on individual movement order within the Lance when determining movement order during the initiative phase of the turn. A Lance with Strategist cannot use Tactics, Delayed Tactics, Tactical Genius, or Taunt.
This ability is a patient man's tool. If you can play enough rounds in a game, 15 to 20, 12 to 15, what League would really like to see everybody playing anyway, this skill has a lot of advantages. Because after the 5th turn, every round you're going to get a +1 initiative. And then it goes up to +2, then it goes up to +3 when you hit those benchmarks. That is going to be huge later on in the game if that pilot is still up and running. Once he's taken out, it doesn't make any difference, you don't get that bonus. But while he is up and moving, the initiative bonuses continue. And that's going to win you late game battles.
Alternative configuration, 5 points. This MechWarrior is lucky enough to be riding around in an OmniMech. As such, they are able to hot swap between 2 configurations between matches. After your opponent and map have been determined, the second configuration may be chosen from the one that shows up on your faction list, or one of the other variants will be modified by the admins to fit with your faction. The variant must be chosen when the skill is purchased and must be within 400 battle value or less of the original unit. This skill cannot be used with the Engineer, Technician, Underworld Contacts, Black Market, Faction Tech, or Clan Salvage skills.
An OmniMech is a great thing to have. You can do different variants, you can mix and match your tech. Great multi-use platform. However, in League, we can't let you have full access to that. Simply because, 1, it would just make the games really difficult to be able to determine. Secondly, the BVs are all over the place. And third, faction tech limitations. You can't have a light gauze rifle and X-pulse lasers on the same chassis, but there could be variants of your favorite Blackjack Omni that does have it. So, what you get to do is when you take this skill and you have an OmniMech in your Lance, you get to pick one other variant that is available to your faction. Or, you can take one from another faction, but we're going to have to change it to make it compliant with your faction choice. But it does give you that option of going, hey, I'm on a city fight, everything's going to be really close range, I'm going to take my Ultra 20 variant of the Sunder instead of the one with the 2 PPCs, because I'm going to have to deal with those known ranges.
Trial Run, 5 points. With the Trial Run skill, the player has been given 4 new LRM ammo types to battle test for a major Inner Sphere weapons firm. The mech may use these munitions during future masses. An ammunition bin cannot carry more than 1 type of ammo. All missiles can be used in conjunction with the missile grouping skill unless noted. 2-stage LRM. 2-stage LRM munitions act as normal LRM except as follows. They carry a solid propellant booster stage, which makes them heavier than standard missiles. This propellant grants them a slightly superior range profile, with short range being 1 to 8, medium range 9-16, and long range 17 to 24. The minimum range of these missiles is still set at 6 hexes. 2-stage LRM bins carry 4 salvos per ton of LRM-20 ammo, 5 salvos per ton of LRM-15, 9 salvos per ton of LRM-10, and 18 salvos per ton of LRM-5. 2-stage LRM cannot be fitted with any other warhead type, example Artemis 4, Narc, Seeking, etc. Magnetic LRM. Equipped with a sensitive warhead tracking system attuned to the polarity of the charged capacitor within all makes and models of Gauss rifles, these LRMs are actually drawn to their target. Apply a -1 modifier if the target has 1 or more functioning Gauss rifles, standard, light, or heavy. Apply a +2 modifier to the missile hits table on successful attacks as well. As an added benefit, if the target in question has more than one Gauss rifle, increase the modifier on the missile hits table by 1 for each additional functioning rifle to a maximum of +4. So sensitive are these missiles, any Gauss rifle, friend or foe, is subject to their attention. If a friendly unit mounting one or more Gauss rifles of any kind is found within the current firing arc and the roll misses your initial target, roll to hit the friendly unit instead. Apply all normal modifiers. Thunder LRM mines. Thunder mines are deployed using one or more LRM launchers and create the same value minefield as the launcher, 5, 10, 15, and 20. Multiple launchers can be used to mine the same hex, maxing out at a 20-point minefield. For League play, a minefield detonation is rolled for any time a mech enters or falls in a mined hex. Take a pilot skill roll as normal if the mech entering a hex takes 20 points of damage in a single phase. This can be from one minefield or multiple mined hexes. Each time a minefield detonates, it also deteriorates one level, 20 to 15, 15 to 10, 10 to 5, and 5 to nothing. In order to keep things fast-moving, we have standardized the detonation target to 8+ on 2d6 regardless of the minefield size. Also remember when you are targeting a hex to apply a -4 to hit a mobile target modifier. If you intend to use this skill, you are expected to have templates or tokens to mark the hexes. Smoke LRM. These missiles create clouds of smoke on the game map. They are fired at a hex rather than a unit. Smoke missiles are treated the same way as thunder munitions when it comes to drift after a miss. It is possible to lay a large smoke screen, but only have 1 or 2 hexes actually become affected as a result. Smoke can also land on water hexes, bursting in midair above the surface. In all standard cases, smoke rises 2 levels above the underlying terrain in the target hex. Smoke automatically dissipates 1 grade each turn, so a heavy smoke will dissipate to a light smoke hex on the following turn, then completely dissipate on the following turn. Light smoke hexes will dissipate completely after 1 turn. Remember that smoke takes effect after the weapon attack phase and will dissipate after that same phase on following turns. The size and type of smoke cloud depends on the type of launcher used. In cases where the player can choose smoke, the cloud composition, he must announce his choice before making the 2-hit roll. An LRM-5 creates a light smoke that fills 1 hex. An LRM-10 can fill a single hex with heavy smoke, or fill the hex of impact and all surrounding hexes with light smoke. An LRM-15 fills the target hex with heavy and all hexes adjacent to it with light smoke. An LRM-20 will target the hex and adjacent hexes with heavy smoke. Also remember, when targeting a hex, to apply the -4 to hit immobile target modifier. If you intend to use this skill, you are expected to have templates or tokens to mark the hexes.
After that mouthful, we'll give Jacques a break for this rest of this episode. LRMs are pretty powerful weapons in their own right, but adding these 4 missile types will allow you to completely control the battlefield. The enemy will have to be careful where they step. You can completely block line of sight. You can make a camping mech completely useless by putting a large cloud of smoke directly in front of them. The 2-stage LRMs will work extremely well with things like C3 or people who really like to stand at the back of the battlefield. The magnetic LRMs would be a fantastic choice to put on your mech when dealing with those guys who really like to mount heavy Gauss rifles, light Gauss rifles, and standard Gauss rifles. Just be really careful if you have to be mounting a few of those yourself. In the long run, I'd have to say this is to take trial run along with field test in your same lance. You would have so many different options of what you want to do with the enemy. It would be very interesting to see. Well, everyone, that is the end of this episode. We have now gone over all of the general skills, and we only have the faction skills left. We will see you guys on the next episode, which will hopefully be in about 2 weeks. Have a great night. Hope you enjoyed the show.
Do